So, there I was, just minding my own business at one of those classic family get togethers. You know, the ones where you promise yourself you'll stay out of the drama but somehow end up right in the middle of it. I wasn't even looking for trouble. Honestly, I was probably just hoping for some decent food and maybe to catch the game in peace. But instead, I stumbled upon this secret big enough that everyone suddenly expected me to be the silent vault it was locked away in. It sounds almost ridiculous when I say it now, but that moment completely changed how every family gathering went from then on. It all started with me doing the usual thing, slipping away from the noise in the living room to grab a soda from the kitchen. That's when I heard voices, soft, urgent whispers that instantly stopped me in my tracks. It was Jess and Mark, my older sister and cousin, locked in a heated exchange just out of sight. The way they were talking? Not just secretive like they were scared someone else might overhear, which, well, I kind of did. I froze, suddenly wishing I was invisible. They were arguing about something that felt way above my pay grade, something hush-hush that didn't seem to belong in our suburban family life with its weekend cookouts and harmless gossip. But there it was, and somehow I caught bits that made my stomach twist. Now, here's the thing about me. I'm usually the quiet one. The background character at these events you might not even notice. I don't stir the pot, don't throw gas on any fires. I just want to keep things peaceful, preferably bland, so I can blend into the curtains when the family drama inevitably explodes. But after that night, it was like I had been coronated the family's secret keeper, whether I liked it or not. Everyone started looking at me a little differently, like I was suddenly carrying this invisible weight no one would name out loud. The weirdest part? I never said a word about what I heard, yet somehow my silence spoke volumes. Suddenly, Jess would give me these knowing smirks at dinners, Mark would shoot quick glances that begged to be read, and even Mom seemed to hover around me with a kind of hopeful curiosity that made me want to hide under the table. That one accidental overhearing changed every family gathering after that. But I had no idea then just how complicated keeping that secret would get. And if I'm honest, it wasn't as simple as just keeping my mouth shut. Not at all. So, picture one of those typical Sunday dinners at my parents' place. The long, creaky wooden table jammed with plates of food, the air thick with the smell of Mom's infamous lasagna, which, let's be honest, somehow tasted exactly the same every single time. Jess and Mark were already there, their voices a little louder than usual, the kind of volume that makes you wonder if they're trying to bounce their conversation off the walls or just make sure everyone's tuned in. I usually sat quietly, the invisible figure at the end of the table, the one who didn't volunteer stories or jump in on gossip unless specifically asked. My personal goal at these gatherings was pretty simple. Eat, maybe chuckle at mild dad jokes, and avoid anything that remotely looked like drama. That was my safe spot, grounded in the knowledge that family life could get complicated. Especially with Jess around, who had a flair for theatrics that could put soap operas to shame. But that night, I was the unwilling audience to what sounded like a pretty serious disagreement between Jess and Mark. I slipped away to the kitchen, just grabbing a soda, I told myself, but then I caught those whispers, the ones so quiet you think they're meant to be invisible. They talked in quick, clipped sentences, their words slicing through the background hum like an urgent secret needing protection. I wasn't supposed to hear any of it, but there I was, accidentally eavesdropping. From what I caught, whatever they were arguing about wasn't just typical family squabble material. There was tension, a sort of, don't let this get out, feeling that hadn't been there before. Jess's voice dipped low, dramatic almost, like she was the lead in some hush-hush thriller rather than my older sister, who once convinced me our mailbox was bugged by the neighborhood spies. Mark, on the other hand, sounded jittery, almost like he was trying to weigh every word before letting it out, like he wasn't sure if he should be telling Jess any of it at all. I tried to piece together what was happening without sounding like I was eavesdropping. The snippets I caught hinted at something that could shake up the family if it ever leaked. Maybe something about Dad's old job, or something Jess supposedly knew and Mark didn't want others to find out. The details were fuzzy, but the stakes? Totally clear. After that night, the dynamics at family dinners shifted in subtle but unmistakable ways. I caught myself noticing how Jess's eyes would find mine mid-sentence, her smirk saying, "You know, don't you?" Without any words at all. Mark started this weird habit of brushing past me in the hallway, throwing quick glances that felt loaded with a secret message. Even Mom, who usually let things roll off her back, started lingering near me with this strange, almost expectant energy, as if hoping I held some key to a puzzle she hadn't yet figured out. It was like I'd moved from being the quiet one to the keeper of the gate, this invisible but sudden authority that I never asked for. And honestly, it terrified me. Because keeping my mouth shut wasn't going to be easy, not with everyone acting like I had the family's future resting on my lips. The moments of peace during those dinners felt fewer and further between, replaced by the electric charge of unspoken truths hanging heavier with every passing week. So yeah, I went from background noise to the center of this secret whirlpool, but I still had no clue how deep the water ran or how long I'd be able to tread without sinking. Keeping that secret felt like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. It kept wanting to pop back up and mess everything around it. The first thing that hit me was how everyone seemed to suddenly want to know if I knew anything, but without actually asking. Like they were playing some weird game of guess what he's thinking, and I was unwillingly cast as the main character. Jess, the most obvious player in this weird chess match, didn't waste any time trying to rope me in. One afternoon, just as I was about to escape to my room, she cornered me in the hallway with that oversized grin she gets when she's plotting something. "You have no idea how much easier this whole secret thing is if you have a partner in crime," she declared, waggling her eyebrows like she was auditioning for a spy movie. I blinked, caught off guard. I'm pretty sure my role is quiet wallflower," I muttered, hoping this would be a one-time pitch. But no, Jess was relentless, stretching the conversation into an all-out recruitment drive. She spun scenarios and grand plans where I'd be her co-conspirator, tossing in dramatic words like trust and loyalty, as if we were about to steal the crown jewels. Part of me wanted to tell her to back off. Another part was just exhausted from the attention all this secret nonsense brought. I mean, Jess treating me like some shadowy figure who holds keys to the family vault was simultaneously flattering and terrifying. Because, honestly, I just wanted to eat my lasagna in peace. And then, out of nowhere, Dad popped up. Now, Dad is usually the quiet guy who sits back like some kind of family statue, maybe cracking a joke here and there if the mood's right. But one evening, while everyone was commandeered by their phones or plates, he looked at me, not with the usual stay out of trouble glance, but something sharper, more purposeful. "Are you all right?" he asked, voice low, but with an edge that stopped me in my tracks. I forced a shrug, fumbling with my fork. "Yeah, just tired," I said, which was true at least on the surface. Dad nodded but didn't press further. Still, that moment hung heavy with unspoken questions. It felt like inside him there was some kind of test going on, a silent way of seeing if I was truly holding the secret or if I was about to crack. It made me second-guess my silence. Was I doing the right thing by keeping quiet? Was the piece I sought actually just a loaded powder keg waiting to blow? And as if things weren't already complicated enough, then there was Mark the wild card in all this. If Jess was the mastermind, Mark was the loose cannon. His clumsy slip-ups nearly blew the whole thing wide open more than once. There was the time he accidentally blurted out a word that didn't belong in casual conversation, caught immediately by Mom, who gave him a sharp look like she was ready to interrogate him on the spot. Or the other time at a barbecue when Mark's joking comment landed right in front of everyone and suddenly eyes were darting to me wide with surprise and curiosity. Mark barely seemed to register the chaos his words caused, just grinning like it was no big deal. Meanwhile, I was sweating bullets, silently begging him to zip it before the whole secret exploded right there on the lawn alongside the burgers. The weight of holding that secret started to feel heavier with every accidental slip and every meaningful glance. I wrestled late into the night, debating whether I should just spill everything. The truth about what Jess and Mark had been hiding, the tension that made family dinners feel like minefields. But then again, the truth felt like a ticking time bomb. If it got out, who knew what would shatter? The piece I clung to? Family bonds? Or maybe just my own place in this complicated web? So there I was, stuck between this deafening silence I was forced to keep and the tidal wave of curiosity that seemed to be pulling me under. I didn't sign up for any of this, and yet somehow I was the keeper of a secret that no one else dared to face head-on. And honestly, I had no clue how much longer I could hold the line before everything came crashing down. It hit a breaking point one evening during one of our usual family dinners. The kind where Mom's lasagna practically glistened under the warm overhead lights and Dad tried out one of his dad jokes, which, let's be real, usually landed somewhere between groan-worthy and charmingly bad. Jess and Mark were seated across from me, their chairs noticeably closer than usual, like they were conspiring right under my nose while the rest of the family buzzed with their own conversations. Suddenly, Mark's phone buzzed and he glanced at the screen. But instead of putting it away discreetly, he flinched and said, hey, just got a message about, well, you know, the whole thing. Cue that slow, collective pause you get when everyone senses something about to spill over but doesn't know if they should stop it or lean in. The lasagna was halfway to being forgotten. Mom, eyes narrowing with all the suspicion of a detective who's missed their calling, leaned in toward me as if I was the puzzle's missing piece. Jess gave me a pointed look, half daring, half pleading. At that moment, everything seemed to bubble to the surface, the tension, the silence, the whole secret seeping out through the cracks. That's when I realized the secret had outgrown all of us. It wasn't something that could be tiptoed around anymore or protected by shared glances and hushed tones. So, I took a deep breath and just said it. Look, I know something's going on. I heard some of it, and honestly, it's been eating at me. Maybe it's time we stop pretending this is a secret. The room was quiet, with a few wide-eyed stares and a sudden shift in the atmosphere, like we'd just crossed some invisible line. Jess sighed dramatically, but not with her usual flair. It was more tired, like carrying the weight alone had worn her down. Mark nodded reluctantly, and even Dad gave me a small, approving smile. It turned out the secret was less explosive than I feared, but no less significant. Dad had been quietly going through a tough time at work, something that involved layoffs and hidden worries he didn't want to trouble anyone with. Jess and Mark had found out and were trying to shield the family from stress, hoping I'd guard that knowledge until the right moment. It was less about scandal and more about protecting a fragile balance. Sharing it didn't solve everything overnight. There were awkward moments as we all adjusted to talking openly rather than dancing around a concealed truth. But it also peeled back a layer of the family dynamic I hadn't noticed before, the way sometimes silence isn't safe, and secrets, even well-meaning ones, can isolate more than protect. Being the secret keeper forced me to reconsider my own boundaries too. I learned that sometimes keeping peace means stepping into uncomfortable spaces, telling hard truths, and knowing when silence stops being a shield and starts being a wall. And I have to admit, Jess's recruitment attempts stopped pretty quickly after that. Apparently, my dramatic reveal took the wind out of her sails for a while. Now, whenever the family gathers, the vibe is different. Not tension-filled, but more honest, with less of that unspoken back and forth that used to weigh on everyone. I'm still the quiet one, sure, but not because I'm avoiding the noise. I'm just listening better, knowing when it's okay to speak up. So, that's how I accidentally became the family's secret keeper and what I learned when I finally cracked open that vault. Now, I'm curious. If you ever found yourself guarding a secret like that, would you keep it locked away? Or do you think some truths just have to get out?